Hi guys, welcome back to an interview with GlenNeta Griffin. I am really excited to talk about this amazing topic today. Black mental health, especially in our communities. This is a timely topic, and I really feel like this is a time that we should be discussing this topic. So we have our guests today. They are killing it with this topic because they are doing this every single week, and they're bringing you knowledge, and they are educating the community, and they are advocating for us. So today we have Vince the Voice Bailey, and we also have Makeba Reed Johnson. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. How are you?
Yes, my pleasure.
How are y'all holding up in the house, y'all? Are you eating good?
Yes,
real
eating
good.
too well.
Look, I'm still wearing my Fitbit, although at some days I don't move enough, so I just take it off. I'm like, you know what, forget it. Like,
Right.
good. So I want to just first of all thank you both for all that you do, because this is a tough conversation to have. We're laughing now because of everything that's going on, but it's a really tough conversation. You guys co-host a weekly podcast called Black Mental Matters. And I want to talk more about that. So before we jump right into it, Vince, let's jump over to you. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your history. I know you guys are advocates for this topic. You both have personal stories that relate to mental health or illness. So I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself and why produce a podcast on mental health.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, GlenNeta, for having us. Such an honor and pleasure. And yeah, we're doing okay over here. Boy, you're right. This is time to be dealing with mental health because we're clustered in the house, we're cloistered in the house.
Yes.
We're dealing with each other on levels that we never had to before. And so very, very timely. And we've discussed this several times in our podcast. So I've been a media professional for about 30 plus years. Just a kid that just loved to read and get information out to people and that kind of thing. And, all my career in media has been about getting information out to communities, whether it was welfare to work, the workforce program, all kinds of things like that. And this time in my life, I realized that people don't know what it is that folks are going through. I'm known as a very happy-go-lucky, smiling, hey, it's going to be a great day kind of guy. But people don't know that, the backstory of Vince Bailey and why he's that guy that wanted to help folks and do things like that. And as I, opened up more about my own story and my own journey, I found that there were many others who were dealing with things, but were afraid to talk about it, and were able to, somehow, slowly it would come out. And so wanted to create just a whole, I don't want to say persona, but just a way to help people realize that it's okay. You're not alone. You can talk about it. You can recover. And in fact, sometimes those tragedies that happen in your life, as they say, you turn lemon into lemonade, can be the thing to really maybe your purpose here on earth, to help others in that sense. So Black Mental Matters was born, and I got a chance to meet this fine lady, Makeba, and hey, it's been a match made in heaven ever since.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the important things that you said is that you're able to recover. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a lot of times why people don't talk about certain things, because they don't know that they can recover. Like, you're going through it, you don't really know. You don't feel like you can recover when you're going through something like that, so we cover it up and we hide it. And it's embarrassing, So, yeah. So Makeba, let's talk to you. So tell us a little bit about your background and why did you decide to also jump on board to produce this podcast for Black Mental Matters?
Sure. Well, I have a bachelor's degree in social work and a master's in public health and a master's in public administration. Okay. So I've always been interested in mental health, social work, social service. What really got me specifically into mental health was just my own experiences with suicidal ideation growing up, especially within a Black middle income family where the emphasis was on education and financial success, and there really wasn't room for a conversation about mental health, because in that arena, if all the bills are paid and people are going to school, then what are you depressed about?
Right.
So that was sort of why I started to realize once I got older that there need to be spaces created for us to be able to talk about it, especially starting within the family. I was an educator at Spelman College for 10 years. I've been in health and wellness for 20 years. Just working with Generation Z specifically, I've noticed recently that there's now a lot of dialogue about mental health, and people are starting to be more transparent and open about their own mental health journey. We're starting to normalize the conversation.
Yeah.
The biggest issue is we're having the disconnect between the generations, you know, the boomer generation, my generation, which is Generation X, and then Generation Z. I have 2 college kids, and I have had to reframe my mindset as far as me being able to open up and be receptive and listen to them and their mental health challenges without getting defensive, and without, and taking responsibility for how I may have played a role in their not being able to have healthy coping mechanisms for their depression and their anxiety, because I didn't have them myself.
Right.
When I first saw that Vince, who I met while I was boxing for at Atlanta Corporate Fight Night, I met him. So we've been friends online for years. After that, I saw one day where he started a Black Mental Matters podcast and an Instagram page, and I liked it. And I crossed my finger and I said, I hope he asks me to be part of this project. And lo and behold, he did. And it has just been so amazing, so therapeutic, to be able to be in a space with someone else who has a journey and has a purpose and is trying to, like what Vince was saying, turn, you know, lemons into lemonade and transmute some of the suffering that we have felt and try to make something positive out of it.
Yes, yes. And I love that you were talking about the younger generation as well, because I think that one of the misconceptions is that it's only older people or our age, you know, that may have these issues, and it's the younger generation as well. And you know, I have conversations with my children. I have 3 kids, and I have conversations with them that my mother never had with me.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like certain things we just didn't talk about growing up, or she just didn't teach me because no one talked to her about those things. There were just certain things we just did not talk about, you know.
Well,
and I didn't. Go ahead, Vince.
I'm sorry, but that's the issue right there. You know, it's taboo in our families.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not unique to the African American community. I mean, in the Asian community, it's even worse.
Yes,
In the Latino community, but for us in the Black community, and we all know. I mean, we're very see, Makeba has the right words. I have the feeling. You know what I'm saying? But we're a very communal kind of people. And we all know we got crazy Uncle Jimmy up there in the attic, you know, that nobody talks about. That's a little too touchy-feely.
Nobody talks about. Nobody brings him out at the family gathering.
You know, and everybody just say, oh, he just a little something, this, that, and the other, you know. But if we could have gotten Uncle Jimmy maybe some therapy, got Uncle Jimmy some medicine, you know, Uncle Jimmy could have been right there with us dancing, you know, the cha-cha slide as well.
Yeah. Let me talk a little bit about that real quick. When you're saying if we could have gotten him some help, do you think that financials play a part, or either one of you, do you think financials play a part? Because I know when a lot of people think marriage counseling or mental health or any type of therapy, you say therapy or psychiatrist or any of those words around certain Black people, and it's very taboo. So do you think that financials play a role, or do people think they can't afford it?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think that does play a part in it. And also, you know, Vince and I have had this conversation on this topic as well. It's hard to get our people to go to the doctor for physical ailments. So when you start talking about mental health and things that can't be measured in a physical metric, then it's even more so, you know, a difficult situation to deal with. And I also wanted to add to that, the uncle, that may have had schizophrenia that we never talked about, or it was just, oh, he's off, or he's crazy. We've also had in the Black community and other communities of color, we have the family member who has molested someone, and that family member is kept within that family circle, because that information is brushed or pushed up under the rug, and there's no recourse for the individual that that was that the perpetrator victimized. That person is still in the family, that person is still around that family member. I dealt with that also growing up, not personally myself, but seeing a situation unfold before my eyes, and the family member was still in the family, and I could not believe it. And that goes back to just our lack of being able to address certain issues, and not just thinking, oh, well, God loves everybody and God's going to forgive this person. We have to understand too that we have to take accountability for ourselves. Sometimes talking about mental health in the Black community, even though we are a very tight-knit culture, it means cutting some people out of your life. And it means removing yourself from toxic situations and loving people from afar sometimes. And that can be really difficult.
Yeah, I agree with that. I grew up, well, I'm originally from Alabama, and, we grew up where everybody, like, we're family. And at the end of the day, it's about family. So even, no matter what those flaws were in the family, we stood by family, because at the end of the day, we're all we have, and I think that's, part of the old school way of thinking. We didn't cut family off back in the day. Like, my grandparents, they didn't cut people off. Like, it wasn't like that. We were family. We worked through the issues, or we just didn't talk about it. And which is part of the problem. So I like that you actually said that. Let's talk about some stats. Why Black mental health specifically? Because there's mental health, but why Black mental health specifically? Let's talk some stats, y'all.
I have some right here. 63% of African Americans think that depression is a personal weakness. You weak. You just you need to just man up. 31% believe depression is a health problem. Only 31%. 6% believe it's a normal part of aging. 40% believe it's normal for a mother to feel depressed for at least 2 weeks after giving birth. That's just normal, girl. That's just how it is. 40% believe it's normal for a husband or wife to feel depressed for more than a year after the death of a spouse. 40% are just in denial that no, it's not a mental health problem. There's something. 38% embarrassment, plays a role. The shame, the stigma. 31% don't want or refuse help. Just, hey, I'm just not going to do it. You mentioned the money. Lack of insurance, lack of money. 29%. Fear. I mean, we're always afraid of the unknown. In this time that we're in right now, they talk about new drugs. I don't know if I want to be the one to be tested, first. We're not trying to get clinical trials. We don't participate in those. I will say that my mom did, and she lived a long life, and I admired her for that. Lack of knowledge of treatment, just hopelessness. There are many, many statistics as it relates. You mentioned young people earlier. That's the group that the increase in suicide is happening now. Our Black young people. It's amazing. And where's that coming from? That's why I lean upon, experts like Makeba who really, study this and can articulate so that our community can heal.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think you guys have a great balance between the two of you both. I just think that you guys are great together. I love exactly what you're doing. Let's talk about how your podcast addresses inclusion in the Black community. So either one of you.
Yeah, sure. Well, we feel that it's very important to be inclusive. We do embrace the Black queer community. We are very aware that there are mental health concerns specific to the LGBTQIA+ community with discrimination, increase in homelessness. Black trans women are at a high risk of suicide, violence, death. Partner violence goes swept under the rug. There are actually laws in place. There's something called the panic defense, which is a loophole in the law that states that if a trans individual or if a person is violent against or kills a trans individual, that they can plead panic, that they did not know that that person was trans and they were fearful. And so all of this is now really coming into light because some people think that Black queer folks are a new thing. And, you know, when you look at history and culture and where we've come as a people historically, Black, queer, and even trans individuals, non-binary or non-gender conforming Black persons have been part of our fabric for centuries, since the beginning of people of color. And so we've got to make sure that we embrace everyone and to make sure that our space is inclusive. And that's why we invite experts on and to create this space where we are accepting and acknowledging individuals who are marginalized within our community. And also, I wanted to also point out that I used to work at an HBCU. And one of the biggest things that I learned, which was a life-changing lesson to me, is that Black people are not homogenous. We are not this one big collective group that thinks and worships the same music. We are very, when you look at us culturally and specifically, we are very different when it comes to our individuality. And so we've got to acknowledge that when we're talking about mental health, that you're talking about people who are agnostic, you're talking with Black people who are atheists. So we've got to make sure that our language is broad and inclusive and that we're not alienating or excluding anyone.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Vince. I know you want to say something.
Yeah, as we talk about, you know, the culture, one of our missions also is to encourage young people of color to pursue this as a career, because like Makeba says, we're not, you know, we're not all the same. However, there is something very special and dynamic about sharing and getting healing from someone who understands you, speaks your language, has that cultural competency, has worked with Black folks before. So I just want to make sure that's one of the things that our goal is to encourage more young people to get into this field so that we can, again, heal our communities.
Absolutely. I think that's a great call to action for anyone who's listening and don't know, you know, which direction they want to go in, especially if they do have personal experiences, you know, with it. I think that's a great way to put in and to encourage them to enter the field. Makeba, you spoke a little bit on suicide. Now, I've been, you know, trying not to drown my timelines on social media with posts about suicides and things like that. But don't quote me on this, but there was some type of post about the president predicting that suicidal rates will increase during this coronavirus pandemic. And that is disturbing. It is very disturbing. And I've seen videos where they've shown people jumping off buildings. And do I know if these are true or not? I don't know, because the internet can be cruel. But what are your thoughts on the suicidal rates, you know, increasing during this time? Because it's scary.
Yeah, well, there is data now that is trickling in to indicate that there has been an increase, unfortunately, in deaths by suicide since the coronavirus quarantine. I think the last data that was out there in the news was just a few days ago. A young man ended up taking his own life or dying by suicide because he was diagnosed as bipolar before the quarantine, and then the isolation was too much for him. So you've got people that are isolated from their family members. You've got people that are isolated with toxic family members. You have people that are feeling like there's no hope afterwards. You have people that are trying to manage being in school online. You have educators. I was just telling my husband, he is teaching online and he's got all this stuff in his office. And I told him, I said, you know, your employer should have actually given you a laptop, put the software on it. So he's in his own stressful situation trying to keep up with the state standards because he teaches at a college himself. And so there's a lot of now stress with this new normal that we're trying to deal with, people that are going through addiction, that don't have maybe access to their substance that they've been using to, you know, muffle out the pain. There's been an increase with people that have been calling in and texting in to suicide hotline numbers and technical support. So there has been an increase. We're still collecting the data. It's very tragic. It's very sad, but that's why Vince and myself, in part why we're doing this at this time, because people are now, and Vince and I were just talking about this the other day when we did a podcast, people are now having to sit with themselves. And when you are isolated and cut off from your normal routine, sometimes your routine is what kind of makes you forget about what you were dealing with, and you kind of use being busy as a substitute of dealing with your depression or your anxiety, whatever issue that you're going through. And now some people are having to sit and face who they are and the things that they haven't dealt with, unresolved trauma. And this is why we've got so many people that are now faced with, thoughts of suicidal ideation and feeling hopeless and thinking that there's no way out.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also some people are having to be quarantined with people they may not really like. Like, we may love you, but you may not want to be in the house with this person all day long. Like, let's keep it real. Some people go to work to get away from these people. And now they can't. So now you're locked in the house with this person all day, and you're like, "Oh my God, it's not be happening."
Domestic violence has spiked during this time. My wife works in the judicial system, and the numbers are. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. There are two things, if I could. One, when you asked, my family's originally from New Orleans, and when Katrina hit back when, this is something that really spurred me, and I want people to keep still in their mind that when those kids were out there and they were saying, help me, and nobody came to help them, and they left them on the bridge and they stuck them in that big old building. And see, people don't think, what that does to someone's psyche. Makeba shared with me, and you know what I'm going to say, Makeba, she gave me the analogy of a antelope running in the jungle and a tiger comes chasing them, and the antelope's whoa, and he gets away, and he gets to the water hole and he just cools out there. He's straight. He escaped. For us humans, every time we think about that tiger chasing us, our bodies go through the same thing. Our minds go through the adrenaline flows, all those chemicals, synapses and everything. So until you're able to release these things, and again, through, these discussions and letting it go, I can't tell you how much better I feel about those things as a result of, having these continuing conversations. So it's almost like I get a therapy session every week for free.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, seriously. That's great. Yeah. You guys can, work on each other.
That's right.
And another topic, I mean, we could literally talk about this all day, but another thing that bothers me so bad, it's seeing our veterans, those people who have served our country and they're not getting the help that they need, or they can't find jobs. That is so disgusting to me, to see or to know that you have put your life on the line for this country and mentally you're not getting what you need, or you don't have what you need, or you can't find a job, or you don't have your bills paid. There has to be something done more to help our veterans that are dealing with this, because they come back with PTSD and all these other issues and they're not being addressed properly. And if you put your life on the line for this country, you should be taken care of 100%.
Especially as a person of color, where you have the judicial equity during the time that you went. My father served in the military, and just a quick short story on that point. He went to Germany overseas, and he said that there was so much racism in the barracks that the blacks didn't stay in the barracks. And he actually learned German because he spent so much time with the German people and in the German towns. And he said that he was trying to explain racism to some of the young German children, and they didn't understand it.
Right.
Because that has to be something that you're taught. But you're absolutely right. He came back here. He was faced again with racism. And that goes back into the point of what we were talking about, where you've got those intersectionalities, where you are Black, you are poor, you join the military, you go serve, then you've got PTSD from things that you've seen and you've experienced. Then you come out, and then you're dealing with police shootings and police brutality, social injustice, and then you don't get health care from a situation. Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely. Let's talk about real quick, and we'll go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. What makes Black Mental Matters podcast different than other podcasts?
I think the dynamic of our experiences first, that we are both approaching this from experience. We're not someone who just went to school, or we're not just someone. We have both had these issues in our lives. I think, I am not the expert. I definitely will take on the advocate role or hat. I will wear that. But I'm coming to it almost as the audience. I feel like, hey, why is this like this? Why is this like that? Why is this? And Makeba, through her, education and training, she's able to give those, the right answers, and with the numbers and the information to back it up. So, we're not trying to help people with relationships. Hey, look, stay with your wife. That's my stay with your husband. That's my advice when it comes down to the love relationship, because I hear that so much out there now. People talk about relationships. Look, you got married. You supposed to, and you got to grin and bear with it. But I think we make a good combination, that we're coming to it honestly, and hey, the proof is in the pudding. I encourage everybody to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Makeba, anything from you?
Yeah, well, I think what makes our podcast different is the dynamic, like what Vince was saying, that we have with one another, and that we bring so much of ourselves into what we're doing, and we realize the importance of it. We try to really stay with topics that are relevant and pertinent to things that are going on today. And also, Vince and I talk about how, we need to realize that we are someone's ancestor. So we are leaving behind this legacy that's going to be in podcast form forever. For somebody to be able to say, hey, this was my great grandfather, Vince, the voice Bailey, and I heard his podcast on depression or anxiety. And wow, this is somebody, my family member, who is now looking over me. And I've got this great archive of information that I have, and not just for our, and our generation that's coming up, but for this to always be in the archives, where Black people can always go back and refer to all this information that we're putting out there.
Absolutely.
And we try to it can be such a heavy subject, all of these. I mean, whether we're talking addiction, depression, suicide, what have you, really try to purposely bring some levity to it too. So that people can digest it, in small bits. I mean, it's a very serious subject matter, but I think we get it to people in a way that they can accept it without walking away ready to jump off a building themselves. Yes, it can be
seriously
deep. Yes,
absolutely. So if you guys could, each of you, give me a final word to someone who may be watching, someone who tunes in later, someone trying to get through this coronavirus pandemic, someone who's at home wishing they had the help that they needed. Just give both of you, Vince, we'll start with you. Just give us, a final message or words of encouragement for someone listening.
Well, the show, the project, the outreach is called Black Mental Matters. And while we've been talking about some clinical things, depression and all those, it's how you deal with life, period. And that's whether, at your job, Makeba, again, living in the moment, accepting things for what they are, enjoying and relishing. So even if you're in the house right now, this may be the last time that you get to spend that much time with your child, with your wife, one-on-one. Enjoy it, make the most of it, take walks, and know that we're going to be better on the other side. Don't feel like you got to change the world just because your schedule is clear. You're doing okay. Yeah.
I love that. Makeba, how about you?
Yes. Also, just like what Vince was saying, I'm really big on present moment awareness about being in the moment. That. Yes. And what I try to tell people, that it's okay to have stress, to be stressed out about certain situations. Yes, this situation that we're going through now is stressful, but just like in the animal kingdom, when an animal is faced with a threat, that animal goes off at that moment, does whatever he or she needs to do to attack that prey, to defend itself. And then when it's over, it's over. Yeah. So we have to realize we need to deal with the finances when they come, not, well, hey, I'm worried about something that's going to happen next month, next week. You deal with what you are dealing with in the present moment, and you'll find out most of the time in the present moment, you really don't have that much that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important just to be aware of.
Yes, I love that. And there's so many things you can do in the moment right now. I'm actually really enjoying the time with my family because even before this, I was so caught up in business and, baseball. We were literally in football, baseball, and cheerleading at the same time, running between all the games. I mean, we didn't have any downtime, and just like I've been catching up on, I have a stack of books I've been reading, catching up on that I didn't think I could, get, and just taking walks with the kids. And we've been doing some spring cleaning and some repairs around the house. Like, I really enjoyed the time. I mean, don't get it twisted. I have bills to pay too, but I'm not going to let that stress me out. I'm just finding the blessing in all of this time because it seemed to me that God has removed us from the busy, from the I don't even know how to say it.
Yes.
The life, just running constantly, trying to make things happen, and He's given us some peace time, and I'm embracing it.
Good for you to recognize that, and
absolutely,
yeah.
So absolutely, I believe that everything's going to be okay, and we're going to come out of this great and even better and even stronger, and everybody's going to have a even greater comeback. So what I want to do is encourage everyone out there to also check on their strong friends, those people that are always there for you or for everybody else. You never know what they're going through, just as we were talking today.
We've got a whole program on that. Those social activists, those ones that are out there on the front line.
Yes.
I mean, Dr. King, they were telling Dr. King, you need to go talk to somebody, man. You crazy. Literally, that's what they're telling you. No, not me.
And I think those people get left behind a lot because people automatically assume that they're strong and they're always fighting for everybody else, and nothing ever bothers them. And those are the people you should be checking on because they take on your problems and everybody else's too.
He is right here.
Oh, me too. I'm right there in there. Sometimes I'm like, are you gonna check on me?
Right. And you know what? That's a really good point because some people say that the strong friend doesn't have a strong friend.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The strong friend needs a stronger friend. Yes, absolutely.
That one needs a friend. And that one needs a friend.
I agree so much. Oh my goodness. So you guys tell us how to stay connected, how to follow your podcast so we can get all those viewers over there to you guys so they can get everything they need. How do they stay connected?
Well, the website is www.blackmentalmatters.com, and that has links to a number of places that we are. The episodes are there. The podcast itself is on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn, on Apple Podcasts. We have the Instagram page, is that at Black Mental Matters. We have the LinkedIn, Makeba, LinkedIn.
Yes, Twitter, Facebook. Everywhere. We even have TikTok, but I'm waiting for Vince to do a dance challenge. So we got to work on the choreography.
Got to work on the choreography.
Look, I keep saying we're going to do a TikTok, and I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do it.
I know, right?
We'll see how it comes out. Guys, I thank y'all so much for being here with me today and for tackling this topic. Keep doing what you're doing. We need y'all. We need y'all to keep doing what you're doing, keep doing your podcast, keep reaching out, keep being an advocate for our community. And I thank you guys so much, and I wish you the absolute best.
Thank you very much.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. Again, I'm your host, GlenNeta Griffin, and we'll see you next time.